So today we're celebrating what we call, like in Catholic faith, there is actually a hierarchy of truths, and the Trinity is the highest truth of our faith. It's the foundation. In other words, if you mess up the Trinity, everything else in the Catholic faith just goes awry. That's how important this particular mystery is. And I've often thought of how can we communicate the meaning of this particular mystery, and I have to admit I tried a dry run of this homily at a daily Mass, and I hope it worked then. I hope it will work with you too. Because there is really a holdover on how to approach God that is reflected in Greek mythology. It's reflected in a lot of the mythology that surrounds the Bible, the Scriptures. And it's this idea that you and I are here and God is off there somewhere. He's way off in the distance, So, for example, for deists, God is over there. He created all this, got it spinning, and split. With the Greek mythology, there's all these players down here in this world, and the gods are up there, and they're relating to them, and all this struggle that goes on between the gods and in this world. And that's not the way the Bible understands our relationship with God. And in order to appreciate that difference, we need to understand what Jesus means when he says, "Remain in me, and my Father and I will remain in you." Remain in my love. Remain in me, and I will remain in you, and my Father and I will come and dwell in you, and all this dwelling, and we'll remain in you, and you'll remain in us. And really what we have to appreciate is that we enter into God as a Trinity. And I tried to think of a way to communicate what that means for us. What does it mean? And in prayer, it just occurred to me that maybe talking about a C-5 Galaxy military transport plane would help us. So I'm going to talk about a C-5 Galaxy transport plane. This is one of the largest transport planes we have among all our military hardware within the military complex that we have in the United States. This plane is huge. The crew is typically 7. The length of this plane is 247 feet. The wingspan is almost that of a football field, 222 feet. It's 65 feet high. Its empty weight is 190 tons. It can take off with as much as 920,000 pounds, or 460 tons. Its fuel capacity is 51,150 gallons of gas. I mean, this is a monster. The cargo capacity of this plane is 36 pallets in the 463L system. Within the military, the 463L system is a pallet system where each pallet is 7.5 feet wide, 9 feet long, and 2.25 inches thick. Each pallet weighs by itself 337 pounds, and each pallet can hold up to 10,000 pounds of cargo. And this plane can take 36 of these pallets fully loaded. It can also do a combination of pallets and vehicles. It can hold 2 M1 Abrams tanks. These things weigh tons each. It can carry 10 LAV-25 armored vehicles, 6 Apache attack helicopters, 16 Humvees. Just massive. On the upper deck, in a nice passenger compartment, it can carry 73 passengers. Or in the lower deck, if you want to accommodate it, it can carry 270 combat-ready troops. It can fly 532 miles per hour, and with a load of 750,000 pounds, it can fly as high as 41,000 feet. How do you get that off the ground? Now, this plane has a nose cone that lifts up, and the nose cone opens to a cargo bay that is 13.5 feet high, 19 feet wide, and 121 feet long for all the cargo. And that's the lower deck. Now, I want you to imagine you're on this huge plane in the nice 73-passenger upper deck, and you're flying along, and you've got a good friend sitting next to you, and you're seated in this seat, and you look out the window and you say, "Boy, isn't that C5 Galaxy beautiful over there?" And you look out and you say, "I don't see any C5 over there. What are you looking at?" He says, "This is the C5. We're surrounded by the C5. That's what it's like with the Trinity. You can't really say, "Look at God over there," because you're surrounded by Him. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He's enveloping you in His Holy Communion. Now, how did you get there? Well, that's baptism. That's what baptism is. Now, this cone that lifts up on this plane, this huge cone, what is the opening to the Trinity? Well, that's the crucifixion. Christ opened the way to the Trinity on Calvary. And you'll notice that He does it not in some exotic, wealthy, nice little location where you have all this nice restaurants and entertainment and everything, and it's an exclusive club. Nothing like that. No, He's on the dregs of hell, because from there He descended into hell. And there was even a good thief that got on board with Him on his way up. So that gives us a lot of wiggle room in terms of getting on board with this huge cone that's just, get on here, hop on. That's our opening. That's how we get on board. Through baptism, we are initiated into Holy Communion of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, so that you're on the C5 Galaxy. You don't look at it over there and say, "Boy, isn't that beautiful over there?" It's all around you. That's what the Trinity is. You're baptized into the Holy Spirit so that now you're relating in God with the Father and the Son from within the Trinity. This is the thing. You're in Holy Communion. So the Eucharist is another time with that big cone of that plane. I mean, the Trinity is just huge, all right? It's much bigger than a C5 Galaxy. But if you imagine that cone opening up again, every time we come to Mass, that cone is up, because this is the memorial of our redemption. And this Eucharist makes Holy Communion. You come forward and you receive Holy Communion. You say, "Well, I received Holy Communion right here." No, by receiving that Holy Communion, you're being received into Holy Communion. You're being brought into full communion inside the Trinity. So remain in me, remain inside of me, close to me. You're enveloped. I'm all around you. You don't have to call to me like at some distant location. I'm right there. Because you're in Holy Communion of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I'm right there. Just a whisper away. I can even hear your heart beating. Now, for sure, we receive here in this Eucharist, Holy Communion. Actually, we're received into that Holy Communion, and we get on board. We receive Jesus in the Eucharist. We're in the Trinity. And we get to the end of the runway, which is the end of our life. The horizon comes to a close with us. It doesn't go on interminably. It ends one time, the horizon. We get to the horizon. You want to know something? You're going to go from this shore to the shores of the next world on this C5 galaxy, the Holy Trinity. That's your transport right there. You've got a passageway right to the next side. But let's say you've avoided coming into communion with the Trinity your whole life. You think it's all a chimera, or I just don't want anything to do with religion. It's just all a bunch of hogwash. I don't know, whatever it might be. I don't know, whatever reason you might have to avoid this, and you come to the end of your runway, how are you going to transport yourself to the other side? Unless you're on board. How do you get there? Well, you will get there, but Jesus has some texts in the New Testament where he says, you're outside and you're knocking on the door, and he says, I don't know where you're from. I don't know where you're from. Away with you. And then he says, they'll be outside and there'll be wailing and gnashing of teeth. I don't know where you're from. You're not coming to me from within this Holy Communion. That means you're coming from somewhere else besides the Holy Spirit, and certainly not from the Father. In this Holy Communion, I don't know where you're from, but you're not coming from this inner Trinitarian life, this transport, if you will, to eternity. This really is, the Bible doesn't buy into the Greek mythology of God way off over there. No, he's right. He's all around you, only a whisper away. And even less than that, he's with you in your thoughts, deeds, words. And that's not meant to frighten us. It's meant to give us hope. It really is. This is hopeful. Because what's surrounding us is not an accuser, but a lover. Satan is the accuser. That's what Satan means in Hebrew, accuser. God is the lover. He loves us. He is love. He's Holy Communion, and he's come to incorporate us into that Holy Communion. And the church is Holy Communion. And when we go to the heavens, we're in the communion of the saints, which is made by participating in the Holy Communion of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And what we do here is a reflection on earth of what's going on in heaven. Let's get ready for it. Hop on board, brothers and sisters. The Trinity is welcoming you on board at this Mass to be with him for all eternity, starting today. Why should we delay? Let's not delay. And certainly, let's not pretend like he's off in some distant locale after all he's done to come so close to us. In fact, he's all around you as you go about your day and your life, helping to build you up, affirm you, support you, love you when love fails, encourage you when hope fails, bring you forward when you feel like falling back. That's our God. He's got your back, literally, because he's surrounding you with himself as we go on board this eternal transport to the other shore. Let's just say yes. Surrender to that and say, yeah, I'm on board, Lord. Take me in. I want to be with you forever in paradise, beginning right now at this Mass on May 29th, 2021.